So I wanted to say, I don't want to say too much this afternoon, but I want to say a little something about the 5-stage Metta Bhavana. In terms of a structure that we're given. There's metta as a quality, which is multifaceted and very rich. And then there's a Metta Bhavana, which is just one way of going about cultivating metta. And it's a classic way. It's a classic way that we get taught to develop metta as in a meditation practice. And it sort of offers some, just that it exists even offers us some sort of insights, really. The fact that there is something called a Metta Bhavana, where you can cultivate metta, that conveys that it is possible. There is something that can be done. There is a practice that will change you, that will transform the heart. It also suggests that it's a training, that it's something to be done again and again. A sort of craft almost. There's an element of craft to it. It's very stagey. There's 5 stages. But in those stages, there's a suggestion that it's good to start somewhere easy. The doorway's with the easy bit, and then you go on to harder things. Yeah. It's also in those stages, if you think about them, they include positive experiences, pleasurable experiences that you might associate with a good friend, neutral experiences, and painful experiences, which covers all experiences. So it also communicates that there is no place that you can't start from. Yeah, there is nothing that puts you outside of the scope of practicing metta. Yeah, there is no material that you think, well, I can't start from here. It's very systematic and very thorough as a practice, and progressive. It's been done for thousands of years, but the Buddha didn't teach it. So the Buddha didn't teach a 5-stage Metta Bhavana. He said, just radiate love. Which is great if if the heart's wide open and the metta's there, you can just radiate it. And that is what the last stage of the practice is. So what's good about the 5-stage, another good thing about the 5-stage Metta Bhavana is that if you're not there, if you're not feeling like the heart is liberated and wide open, then it gives you another way in. It gives you another way in. It just doesn't leave you hanging there. So I kind of want to look at where we can also go with a structured practice. Or maybe I'm just about where I can go with a structured practice. Certainly where I've gone with structured practice, like a 5-stage Metta Bhavana. It can become a chore, something you have to do as a good Buddhist. Quite often underscored by a sense of because you're not all right as you are. There's a sort of like almost the sort of viciousness was the word that came to mind, the viciousness of self-development, yeah, where you're never good enough. You can go to, you have to do all the stages in the same order for the same amount of time, no matter what's happening. You have to use set phrases. You have to use set phrases, Leslie. Yeah. May I be well, may I be happy. And you have to do, the stages in the same order, because that is what you're told to do, no matter how you find those stages. So you only need some sort of combination of those sorts of ideas or thoughts, and you can end up in a prison. The Metta Bhavana as a prison, or a meditation practice as an oppressive structure. So I just want to say a little bit about structure, just to unpack that a little bit. So we can think of structure in different ways. It could be a prison. It's got walls, can hem you in. It can be like a skeleton. It can be like a skeleton, like the substance that supports everything else and allows life and movement. It can be like a building or a room that creates a space within it, within which mysterious and magical things can happen, a sort of protective environment. It can be like a tree, provide a sort of a shade and a shelter. You can think of structure as being almost a bit like poetic form, the structure of the meditation practice. So poetic form, like you might choose to write a sonnet, learn to write a sonnet, a certain number of syllables or a certain rhythm, certain rhyming patterns, yeah? And within that structure, it allows something unexpected to happen that doesn't happen if it's just left to you. The structure could be like work the same way as musical scales, where you practice and practice just to get fluency, but so you can go off and make music. Yeah. We could think of the structure also as being like a door or a window, something that invites and allows you to go through or look through. So there's all sorts of lovely ways of imagining structure. And I just find it interesting doing meditation reviews on retreat, just how frequently we get stuck in a structure. So rather than it being something that allows a freedom or can give rise to an unexpected creativity, it just becomes an oppression. So I think we can do that because we can believe that we're not allowed to experiment. Sometimes you're not allowed to experiment because you've been told by an external authority how to do it, and you must do what you're told. Sometimes you cannot experiment because you think, well, I'm not a very good meditator, and only good meditators can experiment, and I'll have to wait until I'm good enough. I've met someone saying that, and they've been meditating about 20 years. And you think, well, when are you going to get good enough? Sometimes we can just get stuck in a structure or let it become oppressive because we've just gone passive in relation to it. We're not taking initiative with it. We're just going through the motions in a mechanistic sort of way. Sometimes it's just a matter of being overly serious, not enough curiosity, interest and play. Sometimes it's that there's just too much structure already and we don't need more. So I just want to say, on retreat there's quite a lot of structure. There's the structure of the program. There's the structure, just holding meditation posture, there's a form of structure to that. Silence. Yeah, so there's all sorts of things. You need some structure, and you also need to know when you need freedom. So you need to be tuning into that a little bit. But I think particularly with the Metta Bhavana, it can become oppressive when we're trying to do something to the heart. Often with the head or the will. And actually what we're looking for is a conversation with the heart. A conversation with the heart and the body. And underneath all of that, I suspect, is what I'm calling a monolithic thought, which is that the Metta Bhavana is one thing, and you can do it right or you can do it wrong. And Metta is one thing, and I am one thing. And so we're always trying to get that one thing just right. When actually there's a multiplicity of possibilities, yeah. The Metta Bhavana isn't a single thing, and Metta isn't a single thing, and nor are you. So I'd like to suggest that there's a sort of insight dimension to how we relate to structure. Yeah. If you don't fix it into a singular thing, but instead allow it to support you, then you're understanding something about the nature of reality almost, yeah? I was cleaning these windows earlier because I was noticing how grubby they were after the builder's been making a lot of mess. And I mean, windows are quite interesting as structures that also allow quite a lot. And you can just see, so you can just very simply see a window, let's just say in 3 different ways. You can see the window for itself with the glass, which was dirty, but maybe now is clean. You can actually look at that. You can look through it at what's out there. You can also sometimes see yourself in it. Yeah. So there you go. You've got one thing, but it allows 3 completely different ways of seeing straight away. Yeah. It's not a big deal to move between those different ways of seeing, but you do need to allow that that's possible. Yeah. So with a meditation practice, any sort of structure, you can come at it in different ways. Yeah, you can allow that there's some sort of fluidity in that structure. You can play with it. Yeah, you can have a conversation with it. You can hold on to it. You can let go of it. Yeah. You can return to it the way a bird might fly back into a tree. You're trying to find what's helpful for you. What's really helpful is I put PTO at the bottom, but it's completely blank on the other side. So, I mean, just for example, with the Metta Bhavana, it's in the 5 stages. We always start with self, and there's a few sort of explanations for that. One is, is it really metta? If you're not feeling metta for yourself, are you feeling metta for other people? Another, I think traditionally it was because it's the easiest place to start. But it seems very clear after decades of Buddhism being in the West that we find it far from an easy place to start. So although, I mean, I'm still interested that we teach it in that order in Triratna, I do wonder whether we should. I think we've kind of got set into it, and then there's something about, well, we all know where we are and we're all doing the same thing. But I do think as individuals you need to feel free to swap things around. Just to take Ajahn Brahm, he's a bit of an extreme meditator. He always starts with kittens, the Metta Bhavana, because he just goes, well, what is it that allows the heart to open first, most easily? And for him, he just loves kittens. So he comes up with a really bedraggled, sort of desperate, miserable, half-starved kitten, and he just pours his heart into it, and that gets him going. So, what is it your heart responds to? And why don't you let it start there? Yeah. So really, I think that's all I wanted to say was structures can be really helpful, but don't let yourself become trapped in them. Yeah. The Metta Bhavana as a practice is there to allow the heart to open. So see if you can work out what does allow that. See if you can use it with a certain sensitivity. What does the heart like to hear? What does the heart need? If you want to use a phrase or a word, ask your heart what phrase or word it would like. Don't just say the same old thing. Give it a chance to respond. Yeah. Listen to the effect of what you're doing. Yeah.